Welcome to Kansas City Real Talk, brought to you by KCRAR. I'm Alex Gehring, and I am here with special guest
Jeff Carson.
And we are here at Recharge.
Yes.
Jeff and I, this is going to be fun. First, it was like full spoiler, right? Jeff and I have already had these interviews, but they are fantastic. So stick around to the end. You're going to want to hear these. I'm really excited about what our listeners get to hear.
Oh, these were really good. I've subbed before. This was fun today. This was a lot. Not that it hasn't always been fun, but this was really entertaining, interesting, and fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, how are you doing? It's been a while since I've seen you.
It's been a minute, hasn't it?
Since we've really been able to have much of a conversation. Yeah. You're always busy. I'm always busy.
Yeah. And matter of fact, when you walked in, remember, you were ready to jump right into it without even any pleasantries. I'm like, hello, Alex.
Now that's that one of the
You're
things
all
that
business today.
Bobby and I have talked about is that we try really hard not to have too much conversation.
Too much Alex and Bobby.
It can be really difficult because otherwise you get onto the podcast and you don't have those conversations.
Good point.
And so sometimes it's better to like just,
That's why you're the star of the show.
You and
I'm just an extra. I'm just the one walking in the background trying to get on camera, leaning in. And, I'm standing behind Alex. There he is. Oh, there he goes.
They want to hear us connect, Jeff. That's what they want.
I got more compliments and feedback on the podcast that you and I did where we just kind of talked about our real estate journeys than any other one. I mean, I had people text me, hey, I just heard your podcast today. Thought it was great. I thought you and Alex really interacted well. And it was funny to me that was the one because we didn't have a guest and you and I just had a chat and people responded to that. So
it's funny.
Really enjoyed that.
I love that episode. One of my, along the same line, one of my favorite ones that we've ever done actually is similar, and it was just Bobby and I, where I was interviewing Bobby. Those one-on-one conversations where you know somebody really well, like I know you really well, and I know Bobby really well, but sitting across the table from somebody and really having a conversation with them about their journey is I hope that it's a good episode, but also I just really enjoy the conversation, and it's a focused learning opportunity.
Well, you and I had a conversation a few weeks back when you taught class, and I just went in to say hello, and I walked out an hour and a half later. We were sitting on the tables, we were talking, and then we were both like, "Oh my God, we have to go. We have work to do."
It should have been a podcast episode.
Probably we should have grabbed Amber and bring the microphones.
We should have been recording.
I don't know if we could put everything on there.
Probably not. No, not normally. Well, Bobby typically has a book bit that she delivers. And here's the deal. I have some insider information.
When it comes to this part.
I've got some insider information, which is a funny way to bring it in because the book is The Outsiders. And my understanding is that our producer, Amber, recommended The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. And I'm curious what your thoughts were on the book.
Well, I liked it, first of all. I thought it was interesting. Yeah. I liked how they were an insider and then they became an outsider.
Yeah.
And
that contrast.
So it was, when you saw when they were in and then the differences in how they responded when they were out.
Interesting. There was really a character
inside they were warm
there.
And cozy, and they got outside and there were elements that they had to deal with that I don't think they thought about so much.
A lot of people don't think about what it's like to be an outsider, especially when they've been an insider so long. What did you think of Hinton's representation of outsiders?
I thought I was very torn. At first,
as an outsider yourself.
Yes. It was. As much as I like the inside, I do like to go outside. But no, I thought he was very torn because I knew he was very comfortable inside, and it took a lot for him to go outside into the unknown.
So we're dragging this on, but I don't think Jeff read the book.
To be clear, I recommended this to you because I was comparing you to the Socias. So if you have read The Outsiders, you get it.
I feel like I'm in a Will Ferrell skit with Tina Fey or something, or
great.
with Amy Poehler.
Anyway, we're kind of derailing. I actually think that the reason why Amber had a reason for bringing up The Outsiders. Can you tell the people?
Yes. Well, we're having our RPAC auction on May 8th at Sporting KC, and we're doing the theme is called Flashback with RPAC. So we're dust off your saddle shoes and your poodle skirts, and it's going to be a very kind of a 50s flashback. Think Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days, that kind of thing. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But that's where the Outsider book came from, because I do know what it's about. But that whole throwback, flashback to that era, and that's what we hope to put together on May 8th.
Jeff, and maybe we've talked about this. I feel like we did. In fact, I know that we did. Now that I think about it. You're not the biggest reader.
I'm very unread. And I don't know why it is. My entire family reads. They are so, there's books stacked all over our house, and they're always talking about what they're going to read, what they've read in book club, and I'm just completely out of that. It's terrible.
Well, that's okay. There are other ways to consume information.
This is the
learn.
part of podcast that is the most frightening to me, was we get to book bit and I have nothing to contribute.
That's okay.
It's just like crickets over here.
You know, one of the things that I think I've talked about at some point before, I read a ton of nonfiction. I'm not a big fiction reader, and I need to be more of a fiction reader. I was listening to a podcast. I think it was an episode of Diary of a CEO. And actually, I think it was a debate between two people, and embarrassingly enough, about like the decline of masculinity, or some cheesy topic that sounds real awful when you say it out loud, but it was actually a really interesting discussion.
Is it the pink tie that I'm wearing today? The decline of masculinity?
No, I'm wearing blue suede shoes myself. So anyway, it was a really great thing. And one of the things that one of the guests said, she said that she thinks that there's a problem where men are reading so much nonfiction all the time, and if they read more fiction, they might be more empathetic. And I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like I'm an unempathetic person, but I should read more fiction. And I do think that there's an element of that.
That does
I'm
make
not putting
sense.
myself in other people's worlds, right? When I'm reading necessarily, I'm taking their opinions, I'm taking their thoughts, and I'm judging them. Let's be real. That's what nonfiction is.
Right.
Fiction.
Being a judgmental person myself.
Well, I do have a book bit. Could I share a book bit? Because
I would
think that
love
you'll like
to,
it.
because they get the pressure off of me.
I think you'll like it. Can you sing the song?
What? What is the song?
Okay, fine. You got to do the meow then. Do 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 do. Bobby's book bit.
Meow?
That's Casey.
Oh, wow. I'm like, what is this? I guess I did you wouldn't know who Mary Tyler Moore is. At the end of her thing, instead of the lion roar, there was always a kitten that meowed at the end.
All right. Well, so here's my Alex's book bit.
Okay.
Jeff, as an advocacy
Yes.
guy, right? Put on your advocacy hat for a second.
Got it.
My book
always on.
bit, always on,
Always on.
always on. My book bit is Strong Towns, A Bottom-Up Revolution to Rebuild American Prosperity by Charles L. Marohn Jr. It's first of all, really, really great read. And I don't do book bits like Bobby does book bits. She always has this like super organized, like 3-point type of
I
a
know.
situation.
She's so good.
I don't do that, but I am going to make a strong recommendation to read Strong Towns. One of the things that you can take away from this book is just the way that we need to start thinking about municipal level governance, right? So talking about the way that towns spend money, the way that they allocate funds, the way that our cities around the United States were built, and the risk of their possible decay, right? There are all sorts of things that this thing covers, but one of the things that it's very focused on is fiscal responsibility of small towns, and the fact that a lot of these smaller municipalities are so willing to spend money that a private person would look at the economic opportunity of and would say, no,
Right.
this doesn't
Other people's
make any
money.
sense. Now, that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes that's something that you have to do.
Public safety, roads, things like
Absolutely.
that. Yes, you have to, those are the non-sexy things that you have to spend money on.
Yes, and there's no question about that. It's the large capital investment in buildings, or the desire to give to defer taxes on these large buildings that might end up staying empty, right? You got these tax abatements, and we've got some of that
Right.
in our area.
Yep.
of buildings that have sat empty for a very long time. And I still think that one of the things that we're struggling with, we all know that this is true, is the fact that there's just not very much housing. And this book talks a little bit about that as well.
Oh, really?
And the way that housing should be structured, where the drawbacks of urban sprawl. So anyway, it's not fiction. It is nonfiction. It's not an easy read necessarily, but it isn't very long. And if you're interested in how municipalities could restructure the way that they govern, or could restructure their municipal code systems and other things, it's a great read. It's worthwhile.
I'm going to check it out, because it does sound right up my alley. Now, my wife would say that sounds like the most boring book ever to her. But for me, it's right up my alley. That would be something I could get into.
Well, you're on the Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County Consolidated Government. I probably got that wrong.
Unified Government of
Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, Planning and Zoning Committee, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so I mean, it is right.
I'm going to a
alley.
meeting tonight.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. I think that it's a strong one. Yep. Excellent. Well, Jeff, who do we get to talk to first?
We're going to talk to Katie Lance. And I was in her presentation earlier. She was really good. She had some great takeaways for me. I was taking notes as fast as I could. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing from her.
I love it. And Katie was talking about social media primarily, right?
Yeah, she had some great tips for people. I mean, I think some people are spooked by it, especially from a business standpoint. I think it's one thing. It's merging their personal presence online and then their business presence online. I think some people have a problem merging the two, but she had some great tips. I was writing down notes as fast as I could.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to dive in with her.
Yeah,
Should we go
great.
get Katie?
Yes.
Awesome. Looking for more options to rock your home? Voted best in KC, Rock Tops now has 2 locations to better serve you. Come visit their award-winning showroom in Olathe or the new location in Lee's Summit. Making homes look incredible is kind of their thing. Rock Tops designs, fabricates, and installs stone countertops in the Kansas City metro area. Visit either location and mention Real KC Rocks to get 10% off your countertops. Details and restrictions apply. Visit rocktopskc.com to rock your home with Rock Tops. Welcome back to Kansas City Real Talk, brought to you by KCRAR. Jeff and I are here with Katie Lance. Katie, you just got off the stage at our Recharge conference. Jeff and I are so excited to get to sit down with you today. Before we start, I want to know a little bit more about you, what got you into the business, and what makes you tick in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. It was so much fun today. Yeah, speaking, what a great event. So many awesome people. People were, I could tell, fired up and taking notes and got their phones out and ready to implement.
One of them.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I've always, I think, just been kind of an entrepreneur at heart, and I think that's always attracted me to the real estate industry. I've been teaching and being in the marketing space for about 20 years now, which makes me feel really old, but I've seen a lot of evolutions. And with real estate, I actually first started probably close to about 20 years ago. I worked for a local real estate company in the San Francisco Bay Area, and that's really where I kind of fell in love with real estate and how I saw firsthand how hard the average real estate agent works. And from there, went to work for Inman News for many years, and then about 12 years ago, decided to take the entrepreneurial leap and start my own business. And so I work side by side with my husband, Paul. So partners in life, partners in business, which is fun and crazy all at the same time. And we love it. We help agents and brokers get smarter about social media, do a ton of training and coaching and speaking. And it's a lot of fun. So feel very lucky.
Well, I want to know more about Inman. What was your experience like working for Inman?
Yeah, it was awesome. So I started working for Inman. It was probably around 2009 or so, and was there for about 3 or 4 years. And was brought on actually to help grow their social media at the time. And I remember thinking, this is a media company. There's so much content. There's content everywhere. And it was such a really cool time to come into a media company. I always feel like Inman is like the bridge between like technology and real estate, in a lot of ways. And so I was behind the scenes a lot, doing a lot of the marketing and social media. And then one day Brad Inman was like, one of our speakers can't speak. Can you get up on stage and, do da-da-da-da? I was like, okay, sure, I could do that, and sort of got thrust into the limelight, so to speak. And I guess the rest is history. And it really allowed me, I think, to make some amazing connections with folks all over the industry, all over the country, and it was a lot of fun. So I look back at that time very fondly.
Well, that was
sure.
an interesting time too, because the recession was just starting to begin, and so you probably had a lot of content coming your way daily.
Yeah.
It might have been a great time to work for Inman.
Yeah.
There was a good time to be in real estate, that's for sure.
A lot of content. Yeah. And ironically, when I started working there, I was one of the few people that actually had also worked for a real estate company. A lot of the people at the time mainly had media experience or journalism experience. And so just being able to come into it and go, well, here's my experience from working firsthand with realtors and their pain points and what they struggle with. So
that makes a big difference, I think, because I'm a realtor as well, but I contract with the association. So I'm the only one within the office that's ever sold a home and does it number of times. So a lot of times they'll call and ask questions because they don't understand how it works, and because it's a different business.
Absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about social media in general. I know that that's what your keynote was somewhat focused on. Talk to us a little bit about that. Jeff and I weren't able to watch. So maybe okay. Jeff was able to. I was not able to. I was in another interview.
I have some great quotes.
I was in another interview. So it's just that's the deal.
She was good. She was really good.
So talk to us a little
bit.
I
want comment, share.
Give me a little bit of your keynote. I want to know what was going on. I missed it.
Well, there's a lot to cover, obviously. I mean, social media has changed a lot.
Abridged,
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And it is harder than ever before to get traction. I jokingly said on stage, I remember back in the day with Facebook, there actually was a time where you could scroll Facebook, and at some point it would say, you did it, you've caught up, you've seen everything. And that obviously is not the case nowadays. There's so much content. And so I think right now, especially as realtors, there's a big opportunity to be intentional, to show up, it's not just more content, but how can we show up in a way that is really intentional? One of the things I talked about was just being a noticer, notice what's happening on social media, take 5 or 10 minutes a day to scroll, to comment, to just engage in a thoughtful way versus just be a drive-by liker, so to speak.
Right. 4 intentional words.
Yeah, exactly.
Say something meaningful.
Yes. Thank you.
Wow.
You got it. Yes.
Did take notes.
Yes, like leaving meaningful comments.
Right.
Versus just great pick.
And those examples that you gave, I thought were great.
Thank you.
You were just on vacation. How was that? Things like that.
Thank you. Yeah, just being a little bit more thoughtful, using someone's name, asking a question. I think that obviously content is important, and that could be a whole other conversation, but it's also, commenting is almost as important as contenting.
Yeah.
And showing up and engaging and interacting, responding to comments. It's important, more important than ever before.
I think you're spot on with that, because I know I have commented, especially if it's on a political issue or something going on in the community. My comment will get more responses than the original, post itself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you could be really strategic. We're seeing a lot of agents who are doing this really strategically, where they are, on Instagram or Facebook or even TikTok or other platforms, and looking for local businesses, local restaurants, local organizations, and like looking for great content and information, and then leaving a meaningful comment. And it's just like you're leaving a little digital breadcrumb, in other places. And people are like, oh, who's that? Oh, it's a little bit of guerrilla marketing, but I think it's really powerful.
Well, Katie, that really resonates with me. One of the things that I've said for a long time is that the most important content that's on social media is not your own, right? You've got all of this information about your potential consumer at your fingertips that almost any other company would absolutely die to have, right?
Yeah.
And you have all of it available so that you can reach out to them at the right time, be there for them, give them what they need, whether it's a shoulder to cry on, a hug to motivate them, or a high five, right? You have that opportunity. And most companies have to pay a lot of money to have that. That being said, it's also so easy to feel like you're missing out on content if you are not actively engaged. So talk to me about content creation. What are the mistakes people are making? It seems like everybody's putting the same crap out. I see every realtor putting the exact same thing out over and over again. What do you need to do to stand out?
Be first. Be the first to put that crap out.
Yeah, I guess.
Then you scroll past it. I mean, I've already seen it. I saw it on Alex's page.
It's true.
I need to see it on 10
thing.
more.
Right.
I mean, besides being first.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we've moved past a time, and one of the things I said on stage is there was a time for a while we would see agents creating content like 5 tips for this or 3 ways to do this. And I think what we're seeing more of that can really help agents get more traction is instead of more helpful tips, like lead into your opinion. Like, how do you really feel about this? So instead of 3 ways to get your home ready for the market, maybe it's, if my mom was selling her home, like, this is the number one thing I would tell her to do.
Personalize it.
Just personalize it. Like, don't be afraid to be like, look, here's my hot take. Oh my gosh, this is driving me crazy. And if you put your home on the market, please do not do this, right? Like, not being afraid to just share, lean into it a little bit more, almost as if you're FaceTiming a friend and be like, you won't believe what I just saw. you know?
Exactly. I'm pretty blunt and I'm pretty direct. And so I'm that way a lot. And people respond to it. And mostly positive. Every once in a while, somebody will take it the wrong way.
Exactly.
But 99% of it is always positive. Oh my God, that's the funniest thing ever. Blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You say what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not really copyable. I mean, yes, someone could maybe say it in their own way, but they're not you,
Right.
So
I'm stealing some of your stuff from earlier.
What's that?
I'm stealing some of your stuff from earlier. I took notes.
Good. I love it.
So what are some common mistakes that you see agents specifically making in their social media?
Definitely, like you said, kind of posting the same thing as everybody else,
Right.
just sort of dialing it in. I think that even nowadays, there's still a lot of folks who just sort of want to go, I want to pay someone to do it. There's a lot of these services where you could just have this auto feed of posts, which in theory, it's like, oh, that's a great time saver, but it's not you. It's like the lights are on, but no one's home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's medicinal. It comes across that way.
It's very medicinal, exactly. And so you have to have a balance. I do think it's important. Some of your content's going to be promotional, like just listed, just sold, open houses. Like, that's just part of your marketing. But if that's all you're doing, then you're missing out on other types of content, things that are interesting and engaging and helpful. So you can't just spam people, right?
Yeah.
And just promote your listings and again, kind of do it in a way that's sanitized and just looks like the same thing as everybody else, One thing I often will say is, if I were to go to your page and if you were to take the logo off your posts, would I know it's you? Right? And so that's kind of a good barometer to be like, well, the last few things that I post, could any realtor have posted that? Or is it actually something thoughtful, something insightful?
I really like that. Mm-hmm. I really like that. So to be clear, if we're talking about somebody's Facebook page, if I cover up the name and I cover up the picture and I remove any branding from what they're posting, would people be able to identify the voice and know who that person is?
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah. And often it's because, again, agents they're nervous about what they look like, what they sound like, so that they don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times they're comparing themselves to what they see professionally, like with HGTV. And it's like, you know what? We're not creating Oscar-worthy performances.
Yeah.
We're creating something that's in the feed for a moment, a nanosecond.
So this isn't a new problem, though. I mean, and this is going to sound like I'm joking, but I do think that it's the truth. I mean, just look at people's headshots, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're still, and we've been kidding about it for a long time, but it's reaching the point where it's like mission critical for some people, right? Like, we're looking at headshots that are no joke, like 20 years old in some cases.
That
right?
was my fraternity composition picture. Okay, hip hip sig up. I know who you're. Okay, so I know where this is going. You're looking right at me.
I'm not. So if we're dealing with people who are too self-conscious, right, to update their headshot, when and I tell people this all the time, and they think I'm being a jerk. You look better now because it's what I expect to see.
Yeah.
It's you. I love you.
Yeah.
I want to see you when I see your picture. I don't want to see you from 20 years ago. I want to see the person that I know now and who I love.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the thing. A picture is so much more than what somebody looks like, right? It's about how somebody feels when they see that person because of some kind of a conversation that they've had with them, right? So we can't even convince people to change their headshot, right? And then you're asking them to be authentic on camera, on the internet, where everything is forever. What are we missing in terms of trying to get people over that hump of realizing that they're beautiful now, they make people feel good now, seeing them brings joy, right? Seeing them now brings joy. How do we get over that hump? Like starting with headshots and then moving on down the line.
Well, it kind of goes into one of your thoughts in your session. What does it feel to work with you? And so you can convey that, and you want to show that online. So I'm sorry to jump in.
No, thank you.
That was one of my takeaways. What does it feel to work with me? How do I make you feel?
Yeah. I mean, I said this on stage, but I often feel like I'll, again, go to an Agent or Broker's Facebook page. And I feel like it's not until I say this that they really get it, where I'll say, look, I'll go to their page, I'll go to your page, maybe not you, but someone's page, and scroll through, and it looks fine. But the biggest thing that's missing is you.
Yeah.
I always try to tell people, you look how you look, you sound how you sound. It's hard because I think there's also some psychological things, and I'm not a trained psychologist, so I think there are some things in there, and we see a lot of women really, specifically. I'm sure it happens with men too, who just, they don't want to be in the family picture. They'd rather be behind the camera. They don't want to be in the camera, and so it's sort of like a systemic thing, oftentimes, not just in real estate, but sort of in their life in general. Oh, I don't like how I look. I don't like how I sound. So I try to come at it from again, if I were to just come across your page, would I get a sense of who you are and what you're all about? And then I think the other thing I try to really instill, especially with headshots, to your point, is even though we do love those headshots from 10 or 20 years ago, we look back fondly and go, oh, I love that picture of myself. The challenge is when someone meets you for the first time, and if their first reaction is, oh my gosh, you look nothing like your picture, you might joke about it, but it also can erode away at trust. And it's like, if they don't even have an updated headshot for this, it almost plants the seed of maybe they're outdated. They're outdated with their marketing. They don't know what the newest forms of of marketing and communications, and it just plants a little bit of trust. Honestly, untrust. Unfortunately,
there's a doubt.
Doubt. Yeah, exactly.
That's a very good point.
Do you think that the average agent, when they hear that, right? Hey, because I've said the same thing, right?
Sure.
Do you think that the average agent hears that and then thinks that they need to change their headshot?
I think some do. I think some do.
And then do they do it?
There are some. Well, and then part of it is, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have the budget. I need to hire somebody. And I will often say, look, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Take your phone, go outside, here, let me show you how to do a selfie. Okay, you put your arm out, maybe a little bit higher, tilt it down a little bit if you want it to be a little bit more flattering. Grab your spouse, grab a partner, grab a colleague. Hey, let's go in front of this blank wall. Let's go in front of this tree. Is it as beautiful as a professional headshot? No, but done is better than perfect.
And it's real.
It's
you.
real.
Like
I'd rather
that, yeah.
see a real picture. Maybe it's not the most high-end professional photo. I mean, my headshots, my first many years of business were literally selfies or a great picture someone took of me. I didn't have the money for fancy headshots, and so don't let that be the stumbling block.
I do. By the way, you kind of commented that maybe it wasn't as big of an issue for men. I do think that it's a huge issue actually for men. I think increasingly so.
Oh, that's
I
good
really
to
do.
know. Yeah.
It is. No, it
I'm
is.
jokingly looking
No,
at Jeff
no.
again just to bug him.
I wear my seersucker jacket, my pink tie. You think I'm not concerned about how I look today? I very much was.
I do think, and especially in our industry, I do think that is an increasingly important piece. And I think that men sometimes are woefully behind on some of that. Also, I'm seeing more of it now, but I feel like guys were slow also to adopt video in our marketplace, at least. I feel like that was the case, but
no, I agree with you. I was watching somebody shoot a video during one of the sessions, and I was down talking to one of the staff members. Like, I just don't see myself doing it. I can't see myself standing there, being on camera, saying, "This is Jeff Carson," blah blah blah. And she looked at me. She says, "You're exactly that guy. You're the most on person I know. You're sitting here wearing this outfit today that makes you stand out, but yet you're telling me that you feel uncomfortable being in front of a camera."
Jeff, and you know this. I have screen experience. I have stage experience. That's something that I thoroughly enjoy. I don't do it on social media.
I know.
I just don't because it doesn't feel like me. There's something weird about it, and there's a block there.
And I have the same.
I haven't been able to get over it. So that's why I say I do think that it's something that I struggle with, even as somebody that has that kind of like media experience.
Yeah.
You have to
It's
wrestle
weird
a
feeling.
microphone away from me once I'm up on
Yeah,
stage.
yeah.
I mean,
live. It's great.
Yeah.
I can do that all day long. But
Yeah.
all you get me to try to record a story, and I'm not feeling it.
Amber
Right,
gives me
right.
a script, and she's shaking when she gives it to me because she knows I'm not going to follow it. She spent 3 weeks writing it, and she knows the minute I get up on stage, it's like drunk uncle just came up, and took a microphone.
The free for all.
Exactly.
You commented about budget regarding headshots. So let's talk a little bit about inexpensive ways, right? That a beginner agent, right? How can they jump in and put together a solid social media presence? And I'm going to add, we'll do that next. So stay with me, but let's start with budget. If I don't have the budget, right, what can I do?
Well, the beautiful thing is a lot of things don't cost a whole lot of money. Shameless plug, my next presentation is actually all on zero-cost social media marketing tools. And it's true. You don't really have to spend a whole lot of money. I mean, yes, there's things like advertising and, equipment. But at the end of the day, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on stuff. So I think a good place to start is just to start brainstorming a little bit. Content's a great place to start. You might start to brainstorm on frequently asked questions, things that you get asked all the time. I often will tell agents, look through your email. What are the things that people are asking you? Think of the last 6 to 12 months of clients you've worked with. What are conversations that have come up that as you've worked with them, and just start to brainstorm. And don't backspace yourself as you're brainstorming. Just brainstorm, make a list, and that's a great place to start. Is just to start to think about again, sort of frequently asked questions, things that come up, and then you can start to kind of go, okay, well, I've got this list of 50 things. What do I need to post? 50, the next 50 days? No, but let's start to get yourself into a routine that feels good for you. Maybe it's just one piece of content once a week, like a 30-second video or 60-second video. What feels manageable? Because you can always expand. But if you say, okay, I'm going to post every single day for the next 365 days, and then you don't do it, it's very discouraging.
Yeah.
So,
And sometimes is too much. Is there too much? I mean, I
think
know
there can be,
I have
yeah.
people that I follow, and it's like, okay, ugh, and I
Right.
just go through because they posted 12 times today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just so over them. And then pretty soon it leads to an unfollow.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it just does.
You might love the person.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of these people that I absolutely love. They're some of my favorite people in the world, right? But the 6 posts a day, I've
That's a
muted.
little
If
much.
he only posted 6, the one I'm thinking of, but yes, he got the unfollow.
Well, so what if you don't have the technology skills? So there's budget, right? There
Yeah.
are budget constraints. But
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I think that one of my blocks is that back when I used to do a lot of video editing, it was an extremely time-consuming process,
Sure,
right? I had to
yeah.
open up iMovie, and I had to take a lot of time to manually omit all of the fillers and do all of these things and cut everything together. And it could take a couple of hours,
Yeah.
right, to cut down a 3 to 4 minute video,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And which back then was still too damn long, and I should have cut more, but now it's okay again.
Yeah.
The world is confusing, but
You lost me at filler.
Yeah,
So,
well,
I mean, I'm completely lost about what you were doing.
but I used to spend so much time on that, and so some of it I think is technology constraints where maybe I know that I'm not up to date on the tools that are available that can make that process so much easier.
Yeah.
But I just have this vision of how difficult it was, and then
It's so much simpler now with AI.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Right. I know that. I'm
There's
just not
tools
using it.
You can just literally take a video. You can upload it to, I was mentioning earlier, one of my apps I use often, it's called Captions, just captions.ai. I'm not affiliated with them, but you take the app, you take your video, and I do a lot of sort of talking to camera videos where I'll shoot a 60-second video sharing a tip or something or an insight. You take the video, you upload it to the app, and there's these little AI buttons that go, would you like to remove the pauses? Yes, I would. Right? Every time I take it, okay, would you like to clean up the background noise? Yes, I would, right? It'll even fix your eye contact, a little creepy, if you maybe looked off to the camera. But there's a couple little simple things where you can go click, click, click. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, could I spend 2 hours and finessing it? Yeah, but honestly,
But you're never going to post it if
I'm
you
never
do
going to
that.
post it. And I don't think that's sustainable for most people. I say this all the time. I don't think any agent should spend hours editing a video. It's just shoot it, maybe use an app. CapCut's another one a lot of agents will use where there's some little AI tools. Clean it up, get it posted.
And don't you think 90% plus could be done just with your phone? I mean, you don't need any fancy equipment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
content's already there.
Yeah.
Cut, post, paste, save, all.
And the apps are getting better and better. There's, we've got TikTok, we've got Instagram. They're all getting better and better where you can just do a lot of in-app stuff. I mean, I think the challenge is if you're a perfectionist, and it sounds like you might be when it comes to video.
On media, I am.
Yeah. Because it's you. You want it to be a great reflection of you. And I do think that there's an opportunity when you are talking about longer form content, like podcast content or longer form video content.
That can be authentic because how is it not going to be? It's a long conversation, right? Yeah,
exactly. And so there's, I think, opportunities for. Yes, maybe more bells and whistles when it comes to editing. But even with long form, I use a tool called Descript to edit a lot of our podcasts and longer form videos. And it's amazing. There's some AI tools baked into it. You can upload your videos and your podcast. You edit by deleting words, like the words you don't want. You just delete those from your transcript and it automatically trims up your content, which is amazing. So I guess to answer your question, there's so many great tools that are, I think, fairly user-friendly. Many of them are free or low cost to do it, so there's no excuse.
Yes, exactly. There you go. So I need to get back in.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And everybody has a story to share. Everybody has something to share. And I think sometimes we get hung up, too, on what are people going to think or, there's
You know what? They think it anyway, whether you did something or not.
That's
exactly.
true. You're right.
Oh, who does he
You're
think
right.
he is? Well,
Even if you don't post things, I don't post very much on social media anymore, and I know people are like, "What am I doing?" That a few people like judge me for not like posting enough on the social.
Because you don't do it
feeds.
enough, right?
Yeah. I don't.
people will
It's
find
too
anything.
much. It's not enough. I mean,
Yeah.
where's that balance?
Yeah.
Katie, I want to get into a bit of a heavier subject. So we just got out of a great conversation with James Dwiggins, right? And we talked a little bit about the state of the industry and navigating things post settlement, and we had a great conversation with him about it. Social media, right? Probably isn't the place for that conversation at a level of specificity that we might have with James, right? But what can we be doing to make sure that the realtor's value, right, is communicated, not in a inflammatory or defensive way, but what can we be doing to communicate our value to the consumer on an individual basis, not leaving it up to NAR, not leaving it up to the major companies. What can individuals be doing for that on social media?
Yeah, I think for a lot of consumers, they don't know really what a lot of realtors do. There's still a lot of myths and misconceptions, and they just open doors, and they're so glamorous and they're so rich, and they look at $1 million listing or whatever. I think there's a lot of myths, and so I always try to come at it from take people along with you on your journey and show people what the heck is a home inspection? And if you are, if you haven't bought or sold a home in 30 years, like here's some things that I think you should think about. And so and this is where content and showing up on video, I think, is so important, because you can Google a million of these things, but really being able to share your insight and your opinion, your personality, kind of documenting as you're kind of going about your day. Hey, I'm going to a listing presentation. Do you wonder what the heck a listing presentation is? Here's
right.
a quick blurb. And all of those things, I think, also help to build your value, to really explain to the consumer, your clients, your potential clients, who you are, what you do, that you're more than just someone who opens the doors, and that there's a million other things that you do as a realtor. But if you don't tell anybody about it, nobody's going to know.
That's right.
You kind of have to be your own best promoter.
Journey.
What's that?
You need to take them on the journey.
Yeah,
Show them the
exactly.
journey.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be, oh, look at me, I did this. Look at me, I did this. Because we do see a lot of that in real estate. And there's a lot of folks who are like, I don't want to be that person. You don't have to be like that. It could be more of, let me just show you what this looks like. I do this a lot with my speaking. I'll create a lot of little Instagram stories or content. Just, hey, come along with me. I'm going to Kansas City for, this amazing event. Like, people are just curious. What does that look like? And I think being aware of that, taking people along with your journey, and also just providing value, not the same old, not just copying and pasting from ChatGPT, but really thinking about what that value is that you can bring, and not being afraid to share it.
Well, I always think about some of the shows that are on TV, and it's so glamorous, Love It and Listed, and
Yeah.
all these kinds of things that go on. It's not a typical day.
Yeah.
And, as I sit in my office and deal with problems and things that come up, and the funny bleep in real estate
Yeah.
that comes up, I look around sometimes like, where are the cameras? Why do I not have my own show?
Yeah.
Because some of this stuff this is the best TV out there. This real stuff that happens every day,
Yeah.
what we encounter behind every door that we get into. And, we have these wacky customers that come in and out of our lives. Then we've got home inspectors. We have our friends that we work with. We have our wacky real estate partners that we have to cooperate with. I mean, you talk about content. There's content every single day
Yeah.
in the typical life of a realtor, but we glamorize it on television. So it does look like all we do is drive around in luxury SUVs and
Right.
and wear nice clothes and do all these things. They don't see us pumping water and running around trying to find things to hold water because a leak sprung during an inspection. And
Right.
I have a customer who says, every time I empty the master bathroom tub, I think about you, Jeff Carson. I'm like, what? Because when we did the inspection, it flooded the downstairs, and we were running. It was a model home, so we're running around pulling accessories off the wall to run around and try to stop the water. And I had cups and plates and things just sitting all over the house, trying to keep the floors from getting wet, and running out to the car, getting Quick Trip cups and anything I could hold. And she said, every single time I take a bath, I think about you. And I go, okay, that's a little creepy. I hope you share this with Kenny so that Kenny knows about this.
Context.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's what you don't see. You
Yeah.
don't see that kind of thing. I mean, that would have been a great episode right there. It would have been reminiscent of Lucy and Ethel,
Right.
in some context. But again, they don't see that. You have to take them on that journey.
I
Yeah.
want to merge these two conversations because I think it's important. So there's a joke about how a lot of guys think constantly about the Roman Empire.
Yes.
Right? One of the things that I think about, I almost never think about the Roman Empire.
I'm watching Spartacus
at all.
right now. So that's weird.
I don't think about it very often at all. And when I do, it's usually Russell Crowe, like massaging wheat with his fingers or whatever happens. So in Gladiator, anyway. So I'm not really thinking about the Roman Empire very often. But what I do think about is a post-content society. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that sounds really weird. But you were talking about just content saturation. Mm-hmm. You're talking about artificial intelligence. You mentioned it earlier. What are we going to do? What does the world look like on social media, and what does authenticity look like in a world where there is so much content, both some of which may be authentic, but even previously authentic creators are using ChatGPT to manufacture content, right? Just because their creative juices sometimes ain't flowing. And what happens when that saturation reaches a breaking point? Some would argue we're already there. But when it reaches that breaking point, which could be soon, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Especially for real estate.
I mean, it's a good question. I think you always have people coming in and out of the business, and people coming into social media and leaving social media, and platforms change. There's a lot of debate right now about the future of TikTok and how is that going to sustain, or what's going to happen there. There's all these rumblings around Meta and this and that. So I don't know. I think that's a good question. I don't know if I see necessarily like so much of a content saturation is going to implode in and of itself. But I mean, I do think it's interesting. You look at like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and I think how they are consuming and using social media, I think will affect probably the real estate industry. Like, I'll just give a quick example. I think that there's a lot of kids right now, like my kids are teenagers, and a lot of parents have sort of posted their kids' whole lives on social media. And I think a lot of these kids are like, I'm out. I almost kind of going back to a little bit more privacy. I think that there's actually even more of an opportunity for more like of sort of the private conversations that happen on social, like the DMs that happen, the one-to-one connections. I feel like that's where relationships really happen in real estate anyways. It's just like the one-to-one connections. So it's there's a lot of different things we could probably talk about. I also think with AI, you have to educate yourself as a realtor, as a consumer, on what's AI, what's not AI. And AI is getting smarter and smarter. We have to kind of do our due diligence and double check things, in terms of what we're seeing. Is that real? Is that not real? So, yeah, it is a little bit of a rabbit hole.
I love that answer, though, Katie, because with all of that content saturation, with all of the noise, right? It comes down. I love what you said. It comes down to one-on-one, and it comes down to relationship and what happens offline.
Yeah.
Right. That's where everything is built. Yeah. I like that answer. That's good. Well, I think we've come up on our time with you, Katie.
Real quick.
But Jeff's got a question.
No, it's not really a question, but one of the comments, one of my takeaways, and I don't think it was your line. I think you were repeating it from somebody else. But I love the line, I may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I know I'm somebody's shot of tequila.
Yeah.
I am totally going to steal that, and again, from whoever you repeated it
it's
after.
a good friend of mine who always says it.
I loved it, and you got a roar out of the crowd as well. But I thought your session was just wonderful. So thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Katie.